Hey everybody, I'm John Cena, 16-time WWE champ, saying support WrestleTalk, because they talk about wrestling, and I like it. So do us all a favor and subscribe, please. And thank you.
Support WrestleTalk!
Donate on Patreon.
What's next for Kevin Owens? I am Luke Owen. This is Chopper Pete Quinnell. It's the Baldy Boys here once again on a Saturday because Ollie Davis is on holiday. The bloody part-timer Brock Lesnar that he is.
Oh, shocking.
Shocking indeed. But we're going to talk today about Kevin Owens. Last week, Kevin Owens had a big babyface turn, attacking Dolph Ziggler. He kind of like turned babyface throughout the show, but then had his big culminating babyface turn when he attacked Dolph after the match. And then this week came out and cut a very scathing promo on Shane mostly, but it was also the WWE as a whole, saying that there's too much Shane on TV, that McMahon's made hollow promises back in December. Guys like Buddy Murphy and Apollo Crews and Asuka and Kairi Sane are not getting TV time because we're focusing all our time on Shane. And Shane's rubbish, and he's kind of eating everything up, which is echoing, you know, what a lot of WWE fans are thinking. It's very much true. But we thought we'd talk more about sort of like the what's next for him, because there's kind of two schools of thought at the moment. Mm-hmm. So let's start with, we'll go with this one first. We'll go with Wrestle News' first. So WrestlingNews.co doesn't have the greatest track record of backstage scoops. I don't think so anyway. I don't think they're not the most reputable source. They have had a couple of things, but they are not the most reputable source. Yeah. But their report is that this feud was designed to phase Shane off of TV. This will kind of be like Shane's last feud for a while, I guess. And it was sort of like Vince apparently is more open to the criticisms of WWE and is asking people for advice. And the bit of advice he was given was probably have less Shane. So the idea is that he feuds with Kevin Owens and that phases him out of WWE TV. I mean, what do you think of that's a good idea?
Yes, of course it's a good idea.
Shockingly, yes,
less
it is a good
Shane
idea.
is a great idea. Plus, it can elevate Kevin Owens more. If it's a Kevin Owens-Shane McMahon feud heading into SummerSlam, that will help build up Owens to be the one that vanquishes the Omni-Shane. He'll be the one to get rid of Shane. So they could put some sort of stipulation on the match being like, if Shane McMahon loses, he has to leave WWE or he has to
retire from in-ring competition or something like that.
That doesn't phase him off TV, though, because he'll still be there and manage all the people and still get involved in matches anyway.
But you do want him to come back, though.
Do you?
Well, I think that a little bit of time away will probably do him some good. I think the problem with Shane is not Shane. It's the fact that it's too much Shane.
Yeah,
it's the fact that he's involved with The Revival, The Miz, Elias, Drew McIntyre, Roman Reigns, The Undertaker, Dolph Ziggler, Kevin Owens. There's too many people that he's kind of like either feuding with or he's teaming with, and he's just sort of sucked everything up into this Omni-Shane.
Yeah.
It's basically taken over from the Baron Corbin role, where Baron Corbin was just sort of like sucking up that mid-card. Now that's what Shane's doing. And it's too much of one thing. So actually, I think if you phase him off TV for a bit, but you can leave that option open that he can come back, I think that might work.
Yeah, I think the inherent problem with Shane, though, is that they treat him like he's a top wrestler. And he isn't.
He's the best in the world.
So I think he's the best in the world. So I think if they brought him back, he'd still be the best in the world. He'd still be a top wrestler, which is inherently a problem. Because then you have him putting on... He needs to be in a big feud because he's a big star. He's Shane McMahon. And that inherently will take up TV time from other guys that deserve it, like Owens was talking about on SmackDown, such as your Apollo Crews and your Buddy Murphys and your AOPs and Asuka and Kairi Sane. If Shane is back and he's feuding with someone, it will be a big feud because it's Shane McMahon, which will be taking up time. Regardless of how much Shane is being used, it's still too much because you're still not going to be showcasing all these other talents. So I think if Shane comes back as a manager, Shane comes back as an authority figure, which would be terrible, but at least he's not wrestling, that would, in theory, be fine. It's if he gets into big wrestling feuds with other people, that's the problem.
That's where you start to sort of fall down a little bit, I suppose. It is this idea that he's just the focal point of the shows. And as I said, I think the Baron Corbin comparison is quite apt because the big criticism against Baron Corbin a couple of months ago was that he was pushed beyond his means. They were focusing on him in the main event slot of Raw, and he was always sort of main eventing shows. He was all over the shows, and it was like, it's too much Baron. And I think actually since he's been scaled back, he is still like he's the main event of Extreme Rules. Him and Lacey versus Seth and Becky.
I mean, it might be Shane and Taker.
I think the intergender will be the main event.
I don't think it will.
Yeah, you reckon it's going to be?
That's my prediction for a bonus point in Wrestle League, please.
Maybe that should have been our bonus question of what do you think on main events. But he is still figured in that main event scene. But he has had significantly less TV time over the last month. Between Stomping Grounds and this, he has had significantly less TV time than he had back in December or January or February, like in the lead up to Mania.
Yeah.
And actually in after Mania as well. And I think actually the heat on Baron from fans has lessened. Not to the extent of that he's not over anymore and he doesn't generate heat, because he still does get heat, but he's got less of that go-away heat that he had previously. So I wonder if Shane going away and then coming back, as you say, as a manager, or he just comes back and does feuds for Mania and for SummerSlam and for Survivor Series, and you just sort of have him appear on the big four, maybe not the Royal Rumble, but the big four, and sort of spread him out so it almost becomes like an Undertaker-style role, where you just cart him out for the big marquee matches, because, as you say, he's pushed as a big star. I don't know if he still sells tickets, but I mean, you could argue that every WWE pay-per-view has sold fairly well, with the exception of Stomping Grounds, and that was the one pay-per-view he wasn't on.
Yeah.
Whether that's causation or correlation, I'm just putting that out there.
I feel like it might have a few other factors going into it, but
I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's sorry, you're gonna make a point.
Yeah, it's just that I just don't see that Shane. I just don't see him as that big star that they think he is, and I think inherently he'll be taking TV time away from other people that could use it better.
Yeah.
So bringing it back to Kevin Owens, who we're supposed to be talking about. I think, what's next for him should be that he is the one to vanquish Shane, who sends him away either permanently or for a while. And I think he should become one of the top babyfaces, if not the top babyface, in the company.
Bigger than Roman?
In the eyes of the fans, in the eyes of the fans that the internet bubble, yes. Not necessarily in terms of the casual audience, but I think he'll be if he's not the top, he'll be number 2 to Roman.
And that's kind of like what. So WWE, by all accounts, the Observer was reporting this way back when, was that the idea is that he was going to be brought back as one of the top baby faces, particularly on the SmackDown side. That's why he was having those sort of like backstage segments, well, not backstage segments, but those sort of vignettes with it being at the cinema with his kid or going bowling with the family and things like that. And he was meant to come back for his baby. I think they completely botched that from the start.
They really did.
Because Vince brought him out, which made him seem like a heel, but then he was still acting like a babyface, and it completely fell apart. And then the heel turn was there because Bryan got injured. And now this feels like this is kind of like the restart point for Kevin Owens. This feels like this is our first. This is the babyface we were supposed to get at the start before that lead up to WrestleMania was so bizarre in hindsight.
Weird, wasn't it?
Weird few weeks of TV.
Yeah.
Vince just appearing from out of nowhere, be like, Charlotte! Okay.
Which was never explained.
No, it wasn't.
Never
but
followed up.
It was never explained why he picked Owens either. I know he hated Kofi, but why did he pick Owens? Like, that sort of thing was never really covered. No. But anyway, that's regardless of the point.
Because Vince was he's a Deus Ex Machina. He's like, well, you know what? We'll just bring out Vince. He'll introduce some guy, and then the match will be changed. It's fine.
I guess so. But my question is that even with Heyman and Bischoff coming in as the executive directors, and they're going to be like putting forward their ideas and kind of leading the creative meetings, it is still Vince's company.
Correct.
Vince has got the final say on everything. Vince has got to sign off on everything. So no matter what Heyman and Bischoff bring to the table, I go back to that PW Torch article from earlier this year, or actually not, I say earlier this year, only a couple of months ago, where they said 100 ideas are pitched, only 99 of them get rejected, and it's just Vince likes the one idea that gets put through. Same thing can happen with Heyman and Bischoff. So my question is, I'll get to that now, is would Vince pick Owens over Roman to be the guy that vanquishes Shane? And it kind of makes sense that it would be Owens based on that promo.
Yeah.
But then at the end of the day, it is still Vince.
Yeah.
And is Vince not going to say like, well, if Shane's going to be taken off TV forever, surely that should be Roman that does
Roman's
that.
job.
And we've been building this Roman-Shane feud for a while to feel like it's going to build to a big singles match at SummerSlam. Or, heaven forbid they drag it out to Survivor Series.
Don't.
So, do you think that he could pick Owens over Roman?
I think Vince has always liked Owens. Very much so. Obviously, he probably likes Roman more, but I think he's always very much had a soft spot for Owens, based on just from the outlook of Owens' career in WWE, his debut and beating John Cena clean, becoming Universal Champion, even though it was a squiffy finish with Triple H, it was never really followed up on.
Nope.
But Owens was one of the top guys for a long time, and he's always been seen as like a top guy. Even when he's not really been pushed as a top guy, he still felt like a top guy. He was still sort of protected in that sense, even when he was getting chucked off a steel cage by Braun Strowman. So I think...
God, that storyline sucked.
It was really bad, wasn't it? So I think that it's not as clear-cut as, well, it's obviously Roman, because there's definitely an argument to be made for Owens. I do still think he's going to pick Roman, though.
Yeah. I mean, I think there is every chance that they could pick Owens to be the guy. But let's jump to the other side of this debate, or this story, I suppose, because I do think there are two avenues to this. So WrestlingNews.co are saying that this whole thing is to kind of phase Shane out of TV. But WrestleVotes, who have a much better track record, it's 99% of their stuff.
Yeah, it's almost flawless.
It really is. They're so on the money with their things. I think they're very careful with what they choose to report.
Very much so.
And I think they're very smart about that as well. I have absolutely no idea who runs it. But I think they're very, very smart with this. But they put up a tweet yesterday. Yes, it was yesterday.
Well, at the time of recording.
At the time of recording, 2 days ago.
Yep.
They put up a tweet 2 days ago.
Yep.
Thank you, Pete. That said, was told recently that anything WWE had planned for SummerSlam in advance was all subject to change once Bischoff and Heyman fully start their roles this upcoming week. So WrestleVotes are saying that Heyman and Bischoff are being given, and this is a quote, a legitimate clean start with no forced agendas off the jump. Well, it should be from the jump, I guess.
Okay.
And so that to me suggests that all of these sort of things that we've been building to these last few months to get to SummerSlam could be just wiped off the table.
Yeah.
And we'll just like Monday and Tuesday next week will be full-on restart shows where everything will just change.
Yeah.
And you thought we were zigging and we're actually zagging.
Yeah.
And Meltzer reported in The Observer this week that although it's being advertised locally at the moment, Drew versus Undertaker is not planned for SummerSlam. So they're advertising it in Toronto being like, it's going to be a big marquee match. But actually, it's not on the board. And that kind of ties into this WrestleVotes report that kind of everything's off the board. So when we're saying, like, what's next for Kevin Owens, he might not be feuding with Shane come Tuesday.
God, everything might be dropped. Like, they legitimately might take Shane off TV next week.
They might do.
Because they want to.
We might not see him past Extreme Rules.
Exactly, yeah. This could go any direction. It's actually quite exciting thinking about it. I know I'm probably going to be disappointed, and they'll probably try and keep as much continuity as they can while still trying to build their own shows. I think they're just going to go, all right, so Extreme Rules didn't matter. Here's all these other things.
That's saying that they're going to be full-on restarts is like the extreme version of what could happen. But I think you're right. I think there will be some continuations. Of
for sure. So they might still keep... I think they'll keep a Shane feud going until SummerSlam. They won't just drop Shane.
Shane needs a marquee match.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that they'll do that for SummerSlam. Whether that's...
No, I'm not saying he needs one. I'm saying they think he needs
one.
They
think he needs one, yeah. So I think, it's either going to be Roman or Owens, or maybe someone could put, Cesaro, Aleister Black, I don't know, anyone.
God, can you imagine if it was Shane that knocked down Aleister Black's door? Actually, genuinely, I'd have loved that.
That would have been interesting.
Because he could have just black masked him in the face and just like pinned him straight off the bat.
Well, in your world, he would have.
Yeah.
Imagine if Shane won.
Well, oh yeah, quite. We'll start. That's how we start a feud.
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted.
So I think they'll keep some elements of what's going on now. They'll carry that over until SummerSlam. But I do think we're going to see some changes. Like, I think Braun Strowman's going to be one of the top guys again. Because I think there was a report, I can't remember who from, but someone mentioned that Paul Heyman really likes Braun Strowman and wants to push him.
Yeah.
Ricochet, I think, is another guy that he sees a lot of talent in. So he could be pushing him after that. So I think we'll see certain guys will get a lot more exposure and a much bigger push out of the end of Extreme Rules. Owens might be one of them.
Owens could be one of them, but that's on a Heyman show. And when Owens is not on the Heyman show, he's on the Bischoff show. And I'm not going to... I got a lot of flack last week for quote-unquote burying Bischoff. But, you know, because I don't think that he has had many... As I said, I think he's had one good idea. People said, what about the Cruiserweights? Heyman did that first. And actually, Bischoff just copied what Heyman was doing.
Yeah.
And just signed all the way the people that Heyman had on his TV show. So I'm not going to just start burying Bischoff. But... Owens doesn't seem like the sort of guy that Bischoff would want to push. It's not. He doesn't feel like a Bischoff kind of guy. Very much feels like a Heyman kind of guy.
Oh, yeah.
But doesn't feel like a Bischoff kind of guy. So I'm hoping that A, I'm wrong, but B, that you're right in the sense of that he's a Vince guy. And because Vince is the one that's signing everything off, he's like, no, you got to push this guy. You got to push Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens is going to be one of our big baby faces. Certainly the number 2 babyface behind Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
But then again, I suppose it all depends on if we are actually going to get a brand split again as of next week, and the wild cards dropped and whatever.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, we could have a legitimate brand split, as in we have 2 people running the shows, like behind the scenes running the shows, trying to compete to have the best show. As an actual like real life brand split, that would be insane. So then if you had like talent crossovers, that would be all sorts of crossed wires and weird political moves and all sorts of stuff. So I think they'd probably drop wildcards if we are going to be doing that. It just depends how Vince wants to run it. Whether he wants to have 2 brands completely competing against each other. It's like, no, you guys have got to work together to make the best shows possible, kind of thing.
You got to remember as well, the wildcard was a USA Network demanded thing. That wasn't WWE sort of panicking. The USA Network were like, why do we put Roman onto Fox? Why do we put Roman on SmackDown when we're losing SmackDown to Fox? We want Roman on our show. So they were like, they're on every show now. Yep. The wild card is what we'll do. And then it's just evolved into, they just appear on both shows now.
Yeah, wild card hasn't been mentioned for weeks now. No. Raw and SmackDown just go wherever they want.
Absolutely. It really just feels like they've gone back to the Super Show format that they used to do while pretending there is still this brand split. So... really, the what next for Kevin Owens thing, I find kind of like a very fascinating question because it's so up in the air.
Yeah, really is.
It could be a huge push for him. Come Tuesday, it might not be anything. He might not even be on the SummerSlam card. God. It's very interesting, but also, I don't know, like worrying, concerning. There's a whole host of emotions.
Yeah.
Next Monday and Tuesday are going to be fascinating shows.
They really are, aren't they?
Fascinating.
Yeah.
If you're wondering to yourself, what the heck is a crap gimmick? Well, that's a segment we do here each and every Saturday on the WrestleRamble, where you, the Swaff Nation, send to us your crap gimmick submissions, and then we, the bookers, nay promoters of crap gimmick wrestling, decide whether we want to sign them or not. If you want to email in, it's luke@wrestletalk.com. One more time, luke@wrestletalk.com. Huge backlog going all the way back to August last year. We cherry pick them now, but send them in regardless. Whew.
That was a good one. That was a quick.
Thanks, mate. Well, we had big news last week where we did a double signing.
We did. Yeah, it was huge.
So let's see how we get on this week. This was sent in to us by Nicholas Turgeon on August the 18th.
Here's my birthday.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
You know.
Happy belated birthday for last year. Here's the Ginger Reaper. He's 6'4" and 6'7". Oh, he's between 6'4" and 6'7".
He is both 6'4". He's really 6'4", but they'll bill him at 6'7". Yeah.
And he is a bulky, muscular man. He's pale white with a ginger mullet. He has no facial hair, but he has a Reaper scythe tattoo on his pec, like Lesnar's sword. He wears orange and black singlets, kneecaps, and elbow pads, and always has a necklace with a ginger attached to it. I mean, I guess like a piece of ginger attached at the end of it. When he comes to the ring, he's wearing a black with a little bit of orange Undertaker's Druid hoodie lookalike, and he has a Reaper scythe with a bit of fresh blood on it. His entrance music is Back Organ's Toccata, the classic scary organ song. His gimmick is that because he's ginger, he doesn't have a soul. 'Cause, 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 I apologize to any of our ginger viewers. So he becomes a Reaper who kills people by sucking the soul out of them. When he's doing a promo, he's always burning a gingerbread cookie. And when it's all burnt, he says, "There's no soul left in this ginger, like my next victim." His wrestling moves are power-based, like powerbombs, clothesline, big boots, and brainbusters, and mostly focus on the opponent's head, where the soul is. Is it your soul within a head? I guess so. His signature move is a discus clothesline from hell and a swinging neck breaker and a snap DDT. His finishes are an STF called the Soul Eater, where he swallows his opponent's soul while doing it, and a sister Abigail named Jack, where instead of kissing his opponent, he swallows his soul before doing it. While doing the decisive pinfall and after winning, he bursts into a sadistic laugh and scares the hell out of a crowd. Sorry for the bad English, it's not my mother tongue. And that's from Nicholas.
Okay.
Man, so, I mean, the way that this gimmick is laid out is that this guy is legit sucking souls out of people.
Yeah. I mean, several questions about this, and I don't know which to go with first. So, it's very Undertaker-like. Mm-hmm. But he's basically deaf. But ginger.
Yeah. He's the Ginger Reaper.
He's deaf, but... Okay. I don't know how to feel about that.
What it is like a lot of crap gimmicks. It's a one-note joke that is stretched out.
Yes,
beyond,
very much so.
Beyond all of its, and actually, that's kind of the point of it.
Yeah,
it's kind of like stretched out beyond all of its meaning that it once started with.
Yes,
and that's the thing. It's like your starting thing was that like, he is ginger, therefore he has no soul. But then by the end of it, he actually sounds like he is a scary guy that is sucking the souls out of people. And, and it sounds like he stopped being a comedy character.
And I don't think he is supposed to be a comedy character.
But if your gimmick is you are soulless because you're ginger, that is a comedy character.
Yes.
You then can't be the Undertaker.
And if you play that seriously, then you're saying that gingers actually don't have souls.
Yeah, it's a lot of mixed messages. This one. Also, the Undertaker is ginger. Let's not forget.
He is. Yeah.
This was sent in to us by Matthew Muldoon on September 24th, who says, "Hi, Ollie and Luke. First time writing, but I'm a proud." Well, this was before you joined.
I know.
First time writing you, but I'm a proud member of the Swaff Nation and a Pledgehammer. I was recently in the Western US and passed through a settlement that was famous during the gold rush. This got me thinking about a potential gold mine for the ever-expanding CG Dub roster. The Miner is an old-timey gold prospector whose sole purpose in life is to acquire as much gold or belts as possible. Think a mixture of Goldmember and the Will Ferrell prospector character. He comes to the ring dressed like Yosemite Sam with a pickaxe and uses more rough style when wrestling his opponents, and his finisher is a spear called the Gold Rush. He's a heel because he refuses to wrestle for anyone that doesn't have gold, since that's the only thing he cares for, and will go to any length to get it. Similar to Triple H, he will grab the pickaxe when frustrated and use it to distract the referee, who will then take 5 minutes to dispose of it, while the Miner has grabbed the belt of his opponent's gold to whack them over their head and secure the win. Hope all is well and keep up the great work. I like a lot of this.
Yeah.
I like this a lot.
This is pretty good.
I like the Triple H sort of like the pickaxe is his version of the sledgehammer.
Yeah, I don't think you can actually hit someone with it, though.
No, well, no, neither does Triple H.
Well,
because like
you
you'd
know
be like
what
a
I mean.
melon.
Yeah, but I mean, you sort of hit someone with a sledgehammer. You can't just
put
like
a hand over the head.
Yeah, I know, but you can't. I guess it would work.
You do it with the pickaxe as well.
Yeah, I guess. It would just look a bit weird because the sledgehammer.
Well, it looks weird with a sledgehammer as well. He puts his hand over the hard bit.
Yeah, I know.
Tyler,
but you buy
tape.
it though. You buy that you can like you can like jab someone with a sledgehammer. You can't jab someone with a pickaxe.
I like this. I think it works. I think you've come up with a really good idea there, Matt. And I'm sorry that Pete is trying to crap all over your
Aside from the nit pickaxe.
There it is.
It's actually really good. No,
yeah, I really like this guy.
Yeah.
The Miner is certainly up there.
It's good.
This comes in from Chris on November 17th, who says, "Hello again, Luke. This is the Italian BIGMANT, because he's meant to be BMT, but he's the
okay.
He's the Italian Big Man T.
Okay, Big Mant.
Well, no, it's literally big space man space letter T.
Okay.
But really, you gotta break it down, and it's Big Man T.
So it's the
BMT.
It's the Italian BMT.
The Italian BMT.
Okay.
Born and raised in the rough and rugged, dark and gritty subways of New York City, subway, get it? During his promos, he always claims to be on a roll. He does the surfboard submission which he calls the banana pepper as a finisher. Not sure about that one.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a Subway reference I don't understand.
Possibly.
His other finisher comes when he drapes opponents across the top rope in a corner and does a double knee attack, slamming them all the way to the mat, Sasha Banks style, which he calls double meat. His signature is a stunning 1-2 punch he likes to call oil and vinegar. Do you get oil and vinegar in Subways? Fancy Subways are you going to?
Maybe when they do salads, you get like a vinaigrette.
Maybe, I
type
guess.
of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And he lets his womanizer Italian side show when he hams it up with the female fans around ringside. Thanks again for reviewing another of my submissions for Crap Gimmick Wrestling. Have a great month, Luke. Send my best to the boys.
Right, so that last bit is literally just a pun in the way you've worded the email. That's not a pun based on his gimmick or anything like that. He hams it up. You wouldn't say that he's hamming it up.
Yeah, and also, are Italians womanizers? Are we saying that all Italians, are we painting all Italians with the same brush?
Oh, you know, those Italians. Those womanizers, am I right, guys?
And we're saying that any womanizer is just an Italian?
Are all hot tubs jacuzzis or are all jacuzzis hot tubs?
These are the questions that you come to the WrestleRamble for. But aside from that line,
yeah,
I do like some of the pun work.
Okay, yeah. So I really like this up to that bit of the whole womanizing thing. Yeah, it's a stupid Subway gimmick.
But I think
like that.
Here is where I'm going to kind of turn against it, though. Mm-hmm. I feel there is more Subway puns.
Oh, very much so,
and more focused Subway puns that we can get out of this. That's like oil and vinegar. When I think oil and vinegar, I don't think Subway.
No, exactly.
I think of a Pizza Express.
Yeah.
And, you know, a banana pepper, maybe that's a Subway thing in the States, but it certainly isn't here in the UK. So maybe that is just a reference that's gone over our heads.
Very much
but
so,
it doesn't feel like it's not encapsulating of Subway. There's no have it your way. There's no multiple options. Mm-hmm. There's no jalapenos.
Should call the big boot a footlong, for example.
There you go. His finisher is a big boot called the footlong.
Yeah.
There it is. Yeah, there's nothing like that. The size of breads and things like that.
Yeah.
I think you were almost there with this one, Chris, but not quite. Like there's a couple of little slip-ups, I would say.
Yeah.
But I was going through these submissions, and I thought, we've picked out our 3, but they're quite short. So I've got a 4th.
Another first ever.
Another first. There's another short one. This comes from Jeremy Martin that was sent to us on January 6th, who says, "Hi, Ollie, Luke, and El Fakador." Sorry, Pete.
So you can see the progress in time. We've got more people on all the emails now. It's good.
My gimmick is called the Segway. The Segway is a heel who interrupts babyface's interviews with, you guessed it, a Segway, slowly driving past. Then the interviewer forgets about the interview and cuts back to the commentary desk. Also, the Segway segues to the ring to attack babyfaces so he can move on to the next segment. The Segway is an overweight man, hence why he needs to use a Segway. Hey, not all overweight people need to use Segways. I used a Segway, and I used it once for that dance routine.
Yeah.
And actually, genuinely, by the end of it, when we outside, where we had to kind of not so much rehearse the Segway thing that we were doing, we were just the guy was like, you need to get on this first before you use it, and he'd give us a little demo instruction of how to operate it. I genuinely thought, I could see why people like this. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's a great way to get around. Anyway, he's an overweight man, hence his need to use a Segway. His promos are always short and to the point and uses catchphrases of "your time is short" and "you're lucky, we got to move on to the next segment." His moveset is basically trying to end each match as short as possible by heel tactics, i.e. leaving or DQ. He brings a clock and he tells the referee that they're going overtime. His finisher is a rolling cannonball in the corner, which he calls the Segway. So he's called the Segway and his finisher is the Segway. Love you guys, been watching the Ramble from the start and seen every episode. Keep up the good work. That's from Jeremy Martin.
Okay, so there's a couple of things here. I like the premise of him being a guy that a stupid comedy character that just interrupts interview segments and tries to segue along to the next segment. That's fine, get that. I don't get having matches trying to keep them as short as possible and saying overtime and things like that, because that's not...
That's not a segue.
No, that's not a segue, because the segue is just a transition from one segment to the next. It's not, we must make this segment as short as possible.
Yeah.
So I get that he's trying to segue to the next segment all the time, which means that segments would run short. But I feel like those two wires got a bit crossed with
I think so, yeah. That's where I think it falls down ever so slightly, is because, it doesn't feel like it's really about segues. It's about kind of keeping things to time.
Yeah.
And that, for me, that's not what segues are all about.
Exactly,
Certainly not in the WrestleTalk offices anyway.
Oh, no.
So, we have got the Italian BMT, we've got the Segway, we have got Ginger Reaper, and we've got the Miner. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I think this is a pretty cut and dry episode.
I'd say so.
It's the Ginger Reaper! No, it's not, it's the Miner.
It's the Miner.
And if you want to submit a question to the mailbag, all you've got to do is become one of our awesome pledge hammers on Patreon and then leave a comment in the community section. Do not email me because I will forget that. And do you know what? Me saying that has actually reminded me that someone did email me with something and I genuinely forgot about it. But saying that has reminded me that someone sent something because this was now I can't find it. It's in an email that I've got. Right, fill for time with it.
Googling live on air. But if you want to submit any more mailbag questions, like Luke was saying, if you head over to our Patreon page, you become a pledge hammer, any dollar amount, it doesn't matter how much, then you leave a comment in the community section. We'll read it out on the Saturday Ramble.
I found it. It came in from Doug. Doug, you emailed, mate. I lose these things. This
Terrible
is what
stuff.
happens. This comes in from Doug, who says, support WrestleTalk, give them a subscribe. Hey, Luke, wondering if I can get a Patreon shout out on this Saturday's WrestleRamble podcast. I'm a $5 pledge hammer. I did check, by the way. You can't just email me in. I saw past this ruse right at the start, and I was like, yeah, all right. And then I was
Totally.
like, you are there, mate. You are legit. I'm getting married that day, and nothing would make this day better than a shout out from you guys at WrestleTalk, but not Randy. Middle finger emoji to him. Would have loved Ollie Lesnar to do it, but he's got better things to do than work and bring happiness every day to his fans. Keep up the awesome work, boys. Thanks from the Green Bastard from Parts Unknown, Canada.
Cool. So, quick one. Nothing can make your day better than a shout out from us idiots on your wedding day. Have fun at your wedding first, but also congratulations, have great fun.
Super congratulations on getting married. It is an awesome, awesome thing to do. It was the best day of my life. I would happily relive it again and again and again. In fact, actually, the only downside to getting married is that I can't do it again.
Yeah.
I can't have that day ever again.
Just get divorced and then married again.
No, but I'll never be able to replicate that day. I'll never, and to quote Ollie Davis, it's the best wedding he's ever been to.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, I know, man.
Great.
So
I mean, he did say that to you, though, right?
He said it to other people as well.
Well, so he says.
My mum also said it's the best wedding she's ever been to as well. I think she might be biased, but I don't know. My mum can be a harsh critic at times.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's get back into the mailbag. Congratulations on your wedding, Green Bastard.
Congrats.
This comes in from Jonathan Hedman, who says, what kind of character would you like to see wrestling on a major promotion? So I don't know if it's what kind of character or what character you would
So
like
what crap gimmick would we want to see?
No, like as in like I mean when I first read this question it was more like a character from a TV show or a movie you'd like to see in a wrestling format.
Okay.
But actually really it's what kind of character would you like to see? So I don't know, it's a tough question.
It's hard to say because there's so much variety in the wrestling world right now. It's hard to think of an original idea.
Yeah.
Because they're kind of all taken.
Because like a great character, for example, is like Heath Ledger's portrayal of the Joker. You'd be like, oh, that'd be a cool character in wrestling. But there has been a character in wrestling. Aside from the fact that they did Sting did it in TNA for a little bit when he was Joker Sting. It wasn't quite like Heath Ledger's Joker, but it was sort of like a version of the Joker. But the original Doink the Clown was on the independent scene when The Dark Knight was out, essentially doing Heath Ledger's Joker as a wrestling character because he was Doink the Clown. So yeah, I mean, you could almost say, like, I'm going to pick this character, but chances are it's been done at a wrestling promotion.
There's even elements of that now with Aleister Black's promo style. It's very Heath Ledger-like with his delivery of it. So even if it's not being the Joker, there's still elements of characters all thrown around everywhere. So it's really hard to answer that question.
Very difficult. Good question, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I shouldn't say I guess. It was a good question. But a difficult one to answer. But I'm just going to end this with a controversial bombshell. I think The Dark Knight's a bit overrated.
That is a controversial bombshell.
It's a 3-star movie. It's good. It is a good film. It is a good film that is like leveled up by an incredible performance by Heath Ledger.
That's what I think makes it amazing. I would say.
Yeah,
is that performance.
But like the film itself is fine.
I think,
and also the third act is very rushed with Two-Face.
It is a bit rushed, but
it's a whole film unto itself.
I would still say it's a very good movie. I wouldn't say it's a 5-star classic, but I would say it's like a solid 4 stars.
I think Batman Begins is way better. I think Batman Begins is amazing. Batman Begins is the second best Batman film behind 89.
Debatable.
Yeah.
We'll talk about this later.
Then I think it's Batman Forever, obviously. Genuinely do think Batman Forever is a fun film.
Batman
It's the
Robin.
film the studio's always wanted. Anyway, Nate Drop Surname says, hello, WrestleTalk crew. I haven't fact-checked this. Good
80%
stuff.
fact, yeah.
But I believe that everyone who has had a Bray Wyatt puppet appear behind them has lost their match or been at the wrong end of a beatdown angle in the following segment. Could this be part of a larger storyline or just a coincidence? Thanks for all you do and keep on chopping.
Oh, well, thanks for the catchphrase, I guess. That's really curious.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had the time to fact check this myself, so I'm going to put this out there into the ether. Maybe the WrestleTalk, the SWAF Nation community can let us know if that is the case. If it is the case, though, I would almost wager it's coincidence.
Yes, I would as well. I'm trying to think of the ones that I can think of. No, see, I can only think of like 2 or 3 off the top of my head that have actually had cameos behind them. And
what were the cameos this week? So there was one behind Ricochet.
Ricochet, who won. He won his match, but he got beaten down by the club.
And there was one on SmackDown.
SmackDown.
I can't remember who it was behind though. I can't remember. Yeah, there was one on SmackDown. I think it was behind Bayley. Did Bayley have a segment on SmackDown?
Was in the contract signing, and then she beat up Nikki Cross.
No, she was just sat at ringside when Nikki Cross had a match with Carmella.
Nikki Cross had a match with Carmella,
and
then that was it. And then she beat up Nikki Cross.
Was that the show where she beat up Nikki Cross? Was that last week?
Raw?
That was last week, wasn't it?
Was it Raw?
No, that was last week on SmackDown. These shows just all merge into one after a while.
No, because they were on Raw and then also SmackDown.
What happened on this week's SmackDown?
Raw was a beat the clock challenge.
Yeah, Raw. Yeah, so the SmackDown thing with Carmella.
That was
this
just a contract signing. Yeah.
That was this week, right? Yeah. But what was the end of the segment? The Nikki Cross won. Was that it?
Nikki Cross won, and then they stayed each other down.
Okay.
Okay.
I honestly don't remember.
Yeah, not a clue.
So I don't know. We'll pass that out to the SWAF Nation.
Yeah.
Mohammed says, thoughts on 205 Live roster joining NXT with NXT becoming a 2-hour show?
Ooh.
I mean, at least people would watch it.
It's hard to say, because I think part of the appeal of NXT is that it's an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So I think increasing it out to 2 hours would diminish some of the...
Which could happen when it goes to
Some of the
FS1
start.
later this year.
That's true.
If reports are to be believed.
But I mean, if you were going to extend NXT out to a 2-hour show, adding the 205 Live roster would be great, because they're all fantastic wrestlers.
I'm going to slightly disagree with you on that one, though, and that's only because of the conversation that Laurie and I were having on yesterday's NXT Ramble, which is that at the moment NXT their problem is they signed too many people.
Right.
They have signed up. There's a glut of talent, and then we're like, actually, we haven't got enough TV time for all of you. So what you ended up with was Keith Lee appearing at Chicago last year and then hasn't had a storyline since he joined. And his promo that he had on this week's show was, I've been here for a year and I've done nothing. Matt Riddle was brought in with all the fanfare and they gave him this huge push at the start. I don't think he's got anything sorted out for TakeOver Toronto. Like, he hasn't been on TV for the last couple of weeks. He certainly hasn't been on TV since I got back. He's had one video package. And so he's there. Now you're pushing Damian Priest. You're also getting video packages for Killian Dane. Tyler Breeze has just come back. You're pushing Dream. You've got the Undisputed Era going into singles feuds and this and the other.
The breakout tournament.
You've got the breakout tournament. There's 8 guys there. One of them wins at the end, but that's also 8 characters that you've just introduced for TV. There's almost too many people.
Yeah.
So if you were to extend it out for a 2-hour show, just adding in more people is only just going to dilute it further.
That's a very fair point, yeah.
And Kushida is another one that they've given this push to. But there's not enough TV time for everyone. So if I think if you had a 2-hour TV show, you'd almost need that just for the amount of people you've got there already.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I think I'd like to think that NXT would still keep the formula of not having everyone on every show every week.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had... I mean, 205 Live roster is only, 10 people? 12 people? Something like that?
Yeah, if that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think it would be the hugest addition, and they're not all going to be, top stars in NXT. So I think adding them wouldn't be the worst if you keep it rotating each week.
Fair enough.
I think that would be fine. Any more than that, and it does start to get a bit bloated again.
Yeah.
But...
and they'll just get caught up anyway. The one who wants to support says, because that now in kayfabe, Mike didn't impregnate Maria. We don't know that for sure. Maria might have just said that.
Yeah.
Who do you think is the one who has done it? You can't say Becky. I think that it is Mike. I think that it is Mike.
Maria, just be cray, yo.
I I hate that storyline.
Yeah, it's really bad.
I don't like it at all.
No.
Not a fan.
Genuinely, I think the Nikki Cross, Alexa Bliss, Bayley one makes more sense. I know.
No, I'm going to disagree with you on that one. I hate the Bayley Alexa Bliss story more than I hate Mike and Maria. But I think the Mike and Maria one is terrible. It's so bad, it stunned me to learn it was a Paul Heyman idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
that's probably what makes me hate it more.
It's not good.
Yeah.
It's not good at all. I'm hoping that people remember this, because when it turns into this great storyline, they can replay this moment.
Yeah.
Jonathan Edmund back again says, using the time guest theory of time travel... Sure what that is.
Don't know what that is.
What would you go back and change to make things different for that version's reality? For me, I'd prevent me from buying December to Dismember.
Great
It's
shout.
A bit harsh on that show.
Well.
But really, and actually, because we watched it for WrestleRamble Extra, it's not. Like, it's a bad show.
Yeah,
but it's not the worst show I've ever seen.
No.
I've watched Heroes of Wrestling.
Yeah.
That's a bad show.
Yeah.
That's a terrible show.
Very much so, yeah.
So using, essentially, you could go back and just remove something from your reality, what would it be? Or change something. I think I would get more involved with my student radio station when I was at university. I would, just try and be more involved, because I was a bit more aloof about it. I did my radio shows and I was on the committee, but I don't think I tried as hard as I probably could have done. And I think I would have actually got more out of it if I had tried harder. If I wasn't such like, I didn't care about a lot when I was at university. So I think if I'd have gone back, if I could go back, I would probably try a bit harder in my university years.
Yeah, makes sense. I could say that one, because I was pretty similar in that regard. I think the one I am going to go with, though, is I wish I would change how I viewed my Twitch live streams that I used to do. Because at one point I was on the cusp of making it a job, and then I flopped it.
Oh, nice.
I screwed myself over with it. So if I'd have just been more smart, then I could have made it work, but I didn't. So I'd probably change that.
Yeah. I probably wouldn't have gone to Route 66 the night I met one of my long-term girlfriends, because while I had fun, I was actually pretty miserable.
Yeah.
And I dated her for a long time, and I could have had a lot more fun.
Yeah.
Marco Tallinn says, who do you think is the best wrestler in New Japan to never win the IWGP Heavyweight Championship? Minoru Suzuki, Hiroki Goto, Kota Ibushi, Will Ospreay, Tomohiro Ishii, Toru Yano? Ishii's my answer.
That's a lot of names. Yeah, Ishii is definitely up there.
He's a guy that New Japan, by all accounts, they don't see a lot in, and he's never going to be given.
Mental.
Which is crazy, because he's so good.
He's so good.
So Ishii would be my pick. Will Ospreay, you still got time.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I know I see why he hasn't been heavyweight champion yet, but Kota Ibushi definitely has the talent to be champion.
Oh yeah, and he will be.
Yeah.
He'll be like one of their top guys.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
By 2020, he'll definitely be one of their guys. I can even imagine him being in a title shot for Dominion next year.
Could be even part of he's part of the G1, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see him beating Person, maybe getting a title shot out of that.
Yeah, could be.
Person.
Okada.
Forgot everyone's names. Yeah.
I'm not sure. I don't know if they're in the same block, to be honest. I haven't had a chance to sit down and really look at the block for the G1.
I know roughly who's in it, but I haven't looked at any of the matchups or anything.
No, I know.
So.
It's too much wrestling at the moment.
I know.
The dizziest bloke going today says, which wrestler do you think on the industry as a whole, which wrestler did... Okay, I'll try that again. Which wrestler did more for the industry as a whole, and whose legendary status will mean more in 50 years' time? Hogan, Austin, or Cena? Cena's definitely the weakest of those three.
Yeah, Cena's definitely the weakest out of them.
But I think it's Hogan. I think it's Hogan. Because without Hogan, you wouldn't have had Austin.
But then that's just a chronological thing. I don't.
Well, no, because okay, no, sorry, you make your point.
Because I don't think. Yes, that's absolutely true. Without Hogan, you wouldn't have had Austin. However, I think it's so hard to say, because Hogan is such an iconic legend of his time and beyond his time. People still talk about Hogan now, but people also still talk about Austin now. It's just that he came like 10 years later after Hogan's peak. I think both of them are so comparable with what they've done for the industry and the eyes that they've brought to wrestling. It's so hard to pick between them.
I'd say, though, without Hogan, you don't have WrestleMania. You don't have the rock and wrestling boom. You likely don't get Raw. And that means then and the wrestling world completely changes. Like, without Hogan, WWF might not have existed. So I think for me, it has to be Hogan. because he created that wrestling boom, the wrestling boom that then just continued to grow. And then they managed to get Austin off the back of that. But without all of that boom to begin with, we probably wouldn't be sat here talking about wrestling today, because it would be such a niche thing that would probably still be territory based, unless someone else had come in and try and do what Vince had tried to do in the 80s. Yeah. So for me, I think it's got to be Hogan.
Yeah, I think I'm coming around to the Hogan idea, because Austin was responsible for one of the most iconic periods in WWF history.
The most watched period.
The most watched period.
Most money made, apart from now. But
that hasn't really led to much. It was the most iconic period, the most watched, but what are the effects of it now? The product's just kind of declined. Yeah. There's been no groundbreaking parts. I guess we got SmackDown out of it.
Yeah, but that's The Rock as well.
Yeah,
and I think that Austin's, his time on top was from 1998 through to 2001, and then he left.
Yeah.
He was there for 2002, but he wasn't the top guy then, because you look at WrestleMania X8, he's middle of the card against Scott Hall.
Yeah.
Because they weren't factoring him into top 6. I think they probably they were going to afterwards. But by that point, he was taking his ball and going home.
Yeah.
And then he didn't come back until 2004. He's retired now. He had his match with Rock at WrestleMania, and then he's Sheriff Steve. And so his time as a top guy in WWF, while incredibly profitable and while there were the most eyes watching it, such a short space of time. And once he stopped, the industry just completely died out. There wasn't another boom off the back of him. But I think it's Austin.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think it's Hogan rather. Sean Dunn says, firstly, the Screen Grapple Awards should get their own ESPYs.
True.
Secondly, on the spot, any wrestler, form a tag team, and you name it. For example, Curtis Axel, Cody Hall, Perfect Edge.
So, it's funny, because they've just given a tag team name to The Undertaker and Roman Reigns.
The Graveyard Dogs.
The Graveyard Dogs!
A terrible name.
Awful!
It's rubbish.
God! Ryback and John Cena, you can't feed me.
Nice! Good, I like it. Oh, do you know what? While you were saying something, I probably could have thought of something. Omega and... That's because I saw that.
Yeah.
And Brian Cage as the Terminators. They both got Terminator style gimmicks.
Sure, yeah, why not?
And you just do the... Done. This comes in from Anthony James, who says, do you think WWE actually knows how to bring the Bray Wyatt gimmick to a live TV audience? For example, changing costumes in ring or in between promos and matches.
Let's not do that, for starters.
Yeah.
Don't do that. I don't think they know.
I think they do.
Do you?
I think they have got this, because I think that, and I know why they do, is because it's Bray's plan. Bray's the one who is leading this. He will have thought about how we're going to do this in front of a live audience. And therefore, I think that they do know. It's just they're holding off on doing the debut.
I think Bray knows. I don't know if Vince knows how to translate that. I don't know if Vince is going to let Bray do what he wants to do.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think WWE knows. I think Bray knows.
That's good. That's a fair way to put it. Yeah, it's a fair way to put it. Chris Gardner says, do you think that it's possible that Seth is the one who made Maria pregnant? They're pushing Seth and Becky as a couple hard, and the end game of that is to surely either a proposal, which I doubt they'll give how early the relationship is, or a breakup. This could be why Mike and Maria are featured on Raw now. They could do some real soap opera TV and maybe have Mike and Maria supporting Seth as a heel stable. I know it's the longest shot possible, but Mark Henry is the father of a hand, so I guess it could happen. This might just be my brain going into overdrive on Holiday in the Heat, though. Could just be another Bailey Sting deal. Yeah, I think you might have worked yourself into an angle there. I don't think it's going to be Seth.
No, because...
That would elevate Mike and Maria too much.
Yeah, true. And also I think because we're in much more of a reality-based era now, I don't even think the Seth-Becky stuff is going to lead to anything. They're just together because they're together in real life. It's not going to lead to a proposal or a breakup or anything like that. It's just they're together because they're together in real life.
I'd be amazed if they're still an on-screen couple post Extreme Rules.
Yeah.
Because already post Extreme Rules, their relationship, not like their relationship is done, but their need to be have their relationship on TV is done.
Yeah.
Because they vanquished Baron and Lacey.
Yeah.
They could just go off into their own separate storylines.
Exactly, yeah. I think they might reference it once or twice.
Oh, yeah.
Or like maybe Becky just has a match and then Seth comes out and passes her for his match kind of thing. That kind of stuff, and they'll give a quick reference, but that's it.
Yeah. Sean Dunn back again, who says, will there be a WrestleTalk anthology of all the great intro and outro songs? I mean, if you cut one together, absolutely.
Yeah.
And he says, Bailey Sting versus Sting Bailey, the Hugger versus the Stinger. Have a great game. I'm off to Haven in Wales with my kids for the holidays. The reason I bring this up is because the guy who wants to support left a comment that said, the loser of Wrestle League Season 2 should cover Bayley's theme while dressed as Sting, which I think is great.
It's a great idea.
Josh the Lock, not Johnson, says, hey guys, I was thinking about the idea of unifying the tag belts that you guys have talked about. If they did that, what are your thoughts on a Dusty Classic tournament to determine the new champs, assuming Vince wouldn't book B Team or something to go all the way? I think it would be great if it's done with the care that NXT gets, thanks Josh. Well, the problem you've got there is that Vince hates tournaments. I'd love it because I love a tournament.
So Vince hates tournaments and he hates tag teams. That is literally the two worst things for Vince. I'd like it if it was a Paul Heyman or an Eric Bischoff ran thing.
Absolutely.
I'm sure it'd be a lot better. Not while Vince is the top guy. Well, he's still going to be the top guy, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. I'm certainly for the idea because I love tournaments.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, because AEW, they're going to be setting up their tag team tournament soon. And as soon as they announce that, I'm like, brilliant.
Yeah.
So excited for it.
Yeah.
Ollie Davis is number one fan and best jobber in the world, Jordan. Hi, guys. Look, I know you're not a fan of Eric Bischoff, and that's fine. However, if it weren't for him making WCW a force and making a profit within 18 months since being in charge, there wouldn't be an Attitude Era. A fully focused Bischoff makes a great TV product, and it will make it different to any competition. I would argue that Austin still would have caught fire. Austin was catching fire during WCW's run. Absolutely, WCW did make them more creative, but that was off the back of the NWO, which was his one idea. And I've always said I'm not burying him for having that one idea. I'm just saying it was one idea. It was an amazing idea as well. It's an idea that completely turned that company around, but it's still just that one idea. And once he had to do anything else, he didn't really have anything else to do. And I've seen a lot of people say but what about this? What about this? Like, oh, the cruiserweights. Yeah, he put the cruiserweights on TV. They all wanted to leave.
Yeah.
They wanted to leave because he would only push them to a certain level. Jericho, Benoit, Guerrero, they all left. They all left because they didn't want to be there anymore. He drove people away because he was focused on this one thing. And granted, it wasn't all his fault. He just signed a lot of people to contracts that had them with creative clauses, and then those people refused to do things. So, you're right that WCW was a force, and it did make WWE, or WWF at the time, put out a better product, but Austin still would have caught fire. And, and he started catching fire in 1996. Yeah. And he still would have been on top by 1998. Crinius says, do you think that because of the great amount of talent AEW has in its singles and tag team division, people are missing out on their awesome women's division as a force to be reckoned with? Because since they launched, everyone has always been getting excited about the other matches on the card, while my personal and unexpected favourites were the Joshi Girl 6-woman tag at Double or Nothing and the Rose Sakazaki Rio match from Fyter Fest. And now I'm most looking forward to the follow-up matches at Fight for the Fallen and All Out. It's a very good point.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that people are overlooking the women's division per se, because I heard coming out of Fyter Fest, I heard a lot of good things about that triple threat.
Such a good match.
Yeah, and
that's great.
While people were talking about certain other things, talking about Moxley, Janela, and how that was like some crazy shenanigans or whatever, after they talked about that, they were like, "Oh yeah, the women's triple threat was amazing. Yeah, it was great." So I think it's just a matter of time until because I don't think they have as many women as they do. Obviously, they don't have as many women as they do men on that. I think they're just, once they get a bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Once it's more layered, once they have more layers to the women's division, rather than just, this is this one women's feud, then I think people will start talking about the women's division the same way they do the men. It's not that they're less talented, there's just less of them.
No, and I think that you are right, Krinis, that people are sort of not missing out on it, but I think the reason why it's not discussed as much is because their women's division doesn't have a name. And it's, when I mean a name, it's a name that people recognize going in. I think there are people who will know who Britt Baker is, who know who Ali is, they'll know who Bea Priestley is, but they haven't got a Jon Moxley. If Sasha Banks had gone and if she'd left WWE and joined AEW, then the people would be talking about their women's division.
Yeah.
But they haven't got a Young Bucks or a Lucha Brothers or this, that, and the other. They've got the talent that they've got, and it's a great lineup of talents. But they haven't got that name that makes people go oh man, they got that person. We've got to talk about that now. That's where I think is why people aren't talking about it as much.
Mm-hmm.
Darth Almo says, what wrestling factions, past or present, WWE, WCW, or independent, would you guys like to see go head-to-head in the ring in their prime? I've got the easiest answer for this. I've said this from day, this should have happened. DX versus the NWO.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the dream faction warfare that never happened.
Exactly,
and should have happened.
Yeah. I think you'll find it did happen at WrestleMania 31 with Sting versus Triple H.
With famous NWO member Sting. the man whose one mission in life was to rid WCW of the NWO.
Yep.
Yeah, WWE should have done DX versus NWO. They could have done it. They chose not to do it.
Yep.
And that's a real shame. But yeah, it's DX NWO.
Absolutely.
Darth Almo again says, based on your personalities and characteristics, what pop culture figure from movies and TV shows, games or books do you believe could theoretically be based on you?
That's a weird question.
Such a good question,
It's
though.
a good one.
Based on your personalities and characteristics, I guess it's Randall from Clerks is probably, particularly when I was a student, is very much, I feel like we share a lot of the similar personalities. Maybe not, because Randall's a bit of a dick. Maybe I'm just a bit of a dick. I certainly was when I was at university. Maybe that's why I warmed to him so much. You're just like me.
I genuinely can't answer that. I feel like I'm really like generic. Like there's no.
Oh, you're more than generic.
I don't have any personality quirks. So.
I think you do. But I don't know who I would say you would be.
Yeah,
in a book or TV show.
Anyone right now.
I'm going to farm that out to the Swaff Nation as well.
Yeah.
Maybe that's an error. The dizziest bloke in the world going today says, if brackets Ollie, Luke, Chopper, Pete, Andy could portray a crap gimmick wrestler which has been already signed to CG Dub, which one would you pick and why? Kaiju. Kaiju's my pick.
The Miner that we just had.
Nice.
I'd love it.
Good. And also, do you agree with Russo that WWE and AEW are in cahoots together? No, absolutely not. I think actually the dizziest bloke, apparently the other one that Russo's on about at the moment, he's obviously on a conspiracy theory trend at the moment. He's brought back up again the Paul McCartney is dead one, and we've got the fake Paul McCartney in his place, which has been around since like the Abbey Road days of the Beatles, because he's got a different foot forward.
Cool.
Yeah. So yeah, apparently that's his other one at the moment that he's on. Cool stuff, Vince. I mean, you just got to keep yourself busy until Vince McMahon calls him and says he'll be back in the company. Nicholas Andrews says, I know you keep saying that you think Shane versus Roman will end at SummerSlam, but I'm afraid I'm not that hopeful. After this week, setting up Shane versus Kevin Owens that could lead to SummerSlam, I think there could be even more Shane now before then. And I know the next pay-per-view to end it at will be Survivor Series, but I think they could extend it all the way to the main event of WrestleMania.
No!
They could do Team Roman versus Team Shane at Survivor Series and have Shane win one of the world titles at Royal Rumble while Roman wins the Rumble. That would allow for Roman to finally conquer the odds and win the title in one of the worst WrestleMania main events of all time. Do you guys think this is a real possibility, or am I preparing myself for the worst?
Unfortunately, I could totally see that happening.
Yep.
Because WWE have a track record especially in the last like 5 years, of doing exactly that and extending feuds out way beyond their sell-by date.
Particularly if it's a Roman-based feud.
Exactly. So, yes, I could totally see that happening.
I can totally see it happening.
But, with what we said earlier, I'm hoping some of that gets scrapped.
Yeah, absolutely. Connor Curran has asked us to... actually, I won't do that because I've already addressed that with him. Connor Going has said, any chance you guys might consider doing a weekly G1 news roundup to update the standings of each block in the tournament progress and perhaps flag up any particular matches that are worth going out your way to watch, besides all of them, similar to how you do the NXT reviews? Cheers. P.S. I still don't know how to enter a subject heading, hence my caps opening. If anyone can enlighten me, please do so. I don't know, actually, on that one, but
Nor do I.
I'm sure someone else can help you out. I would love to.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, it's the thing that we've always said with WrestleTalk. I'd like to do weekly Impact reviews. I'd like to be able to do weekly Ring of Honor reviews. I'd like to be able to do more New Japan reviews. Problem is, there's no interest in it, and there's not enough time for us to do it. We don't have enough time. We don't have enough people to be able to cover all of the wrestling that happens. And very few people would want to watch it.
Exactly.
And that's a shame.
Yeah.
And then that always brings back the argument, well, if you gave it coverage, you'd almost create the demand. Yeah, but this is a business. We're not in charge of this business. It should be added. But unfortunately, I don't think it's something that could be a possibility. If only for like the money thing, I just haven't got time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the G1 results might be covered in like news videos.
Yeah, exactly. It's a news thing.
But we're not going to be doing full rambles about each day of G1, unfortunately.
Even like a weekly thing. But yeah, I think in the news, absolutely. Like if there's big stuff in the news, like 100% it gets covered.
Yeah.
That is all we've got time for on this edition of the WrestleRamble. Thank you so much for watching, and click the videos that have just appeared on the desk in front of us to catch up with the latest Wrestle Talk awesome things, and this button right here, which will send you over to Patreon, where you can get your own mailbag question in next Saturday's show. I've been Luke Owen, this has been Chopper Pete Quinnell. Enjoy this crazy weekend of wrestling, and that was Rambling.